This is Dr. Ron's Words of Wisdom, words on leadership, goal setting, productivity, and a whole lot more. I hope it'll be like a vitamin and a supplement for you today. And wherever you receive podcasts from, if you'd please subscribe to Dr. Ron's Words of Wisdom and leave a brief rating and review, it'll help other excellent people like you locate this podcast. I want to talk today about a few things I have learned while paying attention. Just a moment. One of those things is that the advantage of getting older is you have a lot of things that you can reflect on. And one of the things I'm reflecting on is what are some of the lessons that I have learned. I talked the last time that I was together with all of you about excellence and setting the standards and making sure you take the long view. But here are some things that I want to share with you today that I think are absolutely essential and important. And I have about 7 of them. The first one is to make sure that your character outdistances your competency. We live in a world right now that says as long as you have the skill set and the track record of getting things done, we don't really care much about your character. We don't really care whether you get, whether you're one of those whose values lines up with ours. If you want to last for the long haul, you have to make sure that your character outdistances your competency. There are a lot of people extremely competent, extremely skilled, well-educated, well-placed. They've had a lot of success in life, but sooner or later, your character will catch up with you. Your private life will catch up with your public persona. And if they don't match, the whole thing will absolutely collapse. This is true in politics, sports, the church, not-for-profits, business. It makes really no difference. One thing that I think I have learned while paying attention, why do some people last for the long haul and others not? How is it that some start out so well but don't last very long? It's because their character was not what all it should be. So, friends, that's the first word that I would give you, the first statement of things I have noticed in life and believe with all of my heart. The second is love your assignment. Now, I know that I am speaking to people today that are in very difficult circumstances, and we all acknowledge today that we are living in difficult times, and sometimes it's just really tough, and we are in, right now, a very tough season. And I understand that regardless of what you do, there are things that are out of our control. I have no control over what other people are going to do or say about me. I have no control over how people are going to react to what's going on today. I have no control over other people's attitudes or opinions. But there are things that you can control. And when you learn that you aren't helpless, that there are things you and I have control over, it will help us it's one of the components to loving your present assignment. I have control over my attitude. Even when I'm having a down day and I need to get away and I need to get centered in the Lord, I still have control over my attitude. I have control over the amount of effort I put in. It doesn't matter whom I work for, who my boss is, whether my coworkers are cooperative or not, whether my family is helping me or not. No one but you and I have control over the effort we'll put forth. And if we're not putting in the effort right now, we have to take a look in the mirror. That's something we can control. We control our preparation. Are we prepared for the things that we are facing right now? We control that. I'm in control of my reactions. Now, I have been in my life a reactionary, and there are times that I've not been pleased with my reactions, but then it falls on me to either first of all, to correct it, apologize. The next thing is to learn to get control of your reactions. You have control over your habits. Whatever habits you're living with today, they're not someone else's fault. And so here's what I say. Whatever you do today, whether you're a butcher, a baker, or a candlestick maker, love what you're doing. Give it your best. Put your heart into it. Do it with all your might. The third thing is, I want to talk about your strengths and your weaknesses. I sit in on a lot of interviews, and at times I almost chuckle to myself because someone on a governing board will ask a candidate this question: what are your strengths? And without fail, the candidate just spills out, here's my strengths. I'm wonderful, I'm great, I do this, I do that. And then they will say, now, tell us what your weaknesses are. And there's always this dramatic pause, as if they are deep in thought and never knew the question would come up. And they struggle and come up with things like, well, I eat too many donuts, or, well, I stay up too late. It was almost as if I heard one candidate say, I have to confess, my weakness is that I don't have any weaknesses. Well, let me help you if you're ever asked that question. Oftentimes, our weaknesses are nothing more than overextensions of our strengths. I like to talk. I really do. I've been doing it for a long, long time. I can't wait for people to be quiet so I can talk. I can't wait for people to share their opinions so I can tell them the correct opinion, mine. So I told you that one of my strengths is I like to talk. My weakness is I like to talk. It's an overextension, and I'll get to some more on that for a moment. It's great to have strengths, and you need to be aware of them. But a lot of leaders have fallen because they didn't understand that their strengths, as wonderful as they are, if they're not reined in at times, they can become weaknesses. You see, when I talk about paying attention, I'm not just talking about paying attention to all that's happening and transpiring in the world. I'm talking about paying attention to yourself. What motivates you? What gets you going? What's happening in your mind and in your life? Now I'm going to turn the other side of the coin over, and I believe we're now to number 4 of the 7 that I'm going to share of things I have learned while I've been paying attention in life, and that is keep learning. Yes, I've already said, yes, go ahead. Make sure you understand that your character will always outdistance your competency. Never neglect your character. But in the world in which you and I are living, we're going to have to continually acquire new skills and learning. It's always a sad percentage to me of all of the people who haven't read a book since they got out of school. You and I never get to the point where we can shut the book and say, now I have arrived. I have learned everything that I need to learn, and I can just sort of rest for the rest of the time. To be the kind of person you need to be, you need to keep learning. And the other thing is, it's skill acquisition. There are skills and things that I'm doing today that I did not do when I started in all of this in late 1981. In 1981, I didn't have a personal computer, a cell phone. There was no such thing as texting or email. Now, I could have said in 1981, I've learned all that I need to know. I have acquired all the skills that I need to acquire. You cannot do that. You have to be continually acquiring new skills. But as I said, as I started, to make sure that your character outdistances your competency, make sure you're still into character development. Are you telling the truth even when you know it may offend someone? Are you courageous and stand for what you believe? Or is it true in your life that your yes is yes and your no is no? Is your character developed that you won't cut corners? You won't cheat. You're an honest, upstanding, righteous person. Keep learning. Keep honing all the kinds of skills, but do not neglect your character. Well, I told you the fifth one was coming a while ago when I told you that one of my strengths is I love to talk. But here's another important lesson, and unfortunately, I learned it later in life, and that is you'll do better. The people who do better in life are the people who learn to listen more than they talk. You've heard all the cliches. We have 2 ears and 1 mouth. Perhaps we should listen twice as much as we talk. That has been a hard thing for me to learn. But I'll have to say this. In my life, I can't think of one thing I've learned while I was talking. But I can think of hundreds and thousands of things I learned while I was listening. And more than talking and always thinking you have the answer, one of the things that I've really paid attention to, it'll help all of us immensely. And one of the things that I'm trying to do in these years as I'm trying to become a better listener is I'm trying to ask good questions. Rather than always talking and giving the information and assuming that I am the authority figure in every situation, I'm learning to ask the people around me, what do you think? How do you see it? How did you come to that conclusion? Even in the contentious day and age we live in, it would do you well to listen. People are voting for certain reasons. Listen. Don't assume you know that those people are all idiots who don't agree with you. Listen to what they're saying. I will say it one more time. I've never learned anything while I was talking, but I've learned a lot while I was listening. There have been times in recent days somebody came and poured their heart out and were describing their situation, and I'd really prepped myself. I'm going to listen. I'm going to wait till they're done. I'm not going to interrupt and offer advice, which I have done frequently in my lifetime. I forced myself to listen to them empathetically. And they talked until they could not talk anymore. And then, before I even had a chance to formulate what my opinion would be, they said to me, Dr. Blake, you are one of the finest counselors I've ever been to. I have learned more from having this time with you. You have really helped me. I'm not sure that I'd strung 5 sentences together in the entire 45 to 50 minutes we were together. Many people know what they want to do. They just need to have some talk therapy and talk it out, and to have someone empathetically listen to them. So again, one of the things that I've learned while I'm paying attention in life is listen more than you talk. Then when it comes to decision making, this is what throws people off in life. When you are getting ready to make a tough decision, you need to decide this thing right at the outset. Is the decision I'm making it because it's the loving, correct thing to do, or am I making this decision because I want to be loved? Here's what I've discovered. I meet with a lot of governing boards, and oftentimes when I'm called in to mediate difficulties, oftentimes I can tell you the number one reason that happens is because previous leaders down through the years, and unfortunately in some situations decades, have tried to kick the can down the alley, forced a decision on someone who was to come later, and thought they were doing the loving thing. It is never a loving thing to tell someone something that isn't true. To allow someone to go on a road that is going to lead to disaster and to just say, have a good time, is not the loving thing to do. The loving thing at times is very painful. It's very difficult. I think there's a phrase in my culture, it's called tough love. Far too many leaders want more to be loved than to do the right thing. Leadership, friends, you are required as a leader to do the right thing. And sometimes that'll be to take a stand alone. That will be a time that you will anger people who are closest to you. That's also has all kinds of risk. But trying to be loving and not confronting and explaining the truth of a circumstance is not why you are where you are. So always ask yourself before you make the decision, is this the loving decision, or am I making this decision so people will love me? Hey, we all want to be loved. And if you really truly want to be loved, you ought to start selling ice cream. They're the only people I know that everyone loves them. If you're called to be a leader, you're going to have to lead. Oftentimes, loving people will love you back, but you are also called there to make tough decisions. Well, let me give a seventh and final one here of things that I've learned in life while paying attention. Your private life, I'm going to finish like I started. Your private life always determines your public legacy. Sooner or later, who you are behind closed doors, who I am when no one's there, who I am when no one sees what I'm doing is who I really am, and it will come out sooner or later. I don't even have to offer you names from every world of endeavor of people who had a public persona and their private life was diametrically different. It will eventually catch up with you. Guard your heart. It is the wellspring of life. Everything flows out of it. Never be so busy that you don't nurture your own soul, your own mind, your own life. It's very important. I started all of this in 1981. I don't know when I'm going to stop. I feel like I'm going to go a lot longer. But here's what I know. It's not only important to have a good start. We have to have a good finish. I have no idea what the rest of this year and next year holds for us, but what I know is we must be determined to keep moving forward. You have been listening to Dr. Ron's Words of Wisdom, words on leadership, goal setting, and productivity. I hope today this has been a help to you. And remember, all of my leadership friends, you are doing better than you think you are. You really are. And until next time, this is Dr. Ron saying, have a great and blessed day.